Okay, good morning everyone, good afternoon. My name is Stuart Reigeluth. I'm calling in from Brussels. I represent REVOLVE. We're one of the founding partners of Cities for Forests along with World Resources Institute and pilot projects. I'm joined today by my colleague Patricia, who's in Barcelona. Good afternoon, Patricia. You want to say a couple of words?
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to connect with you all. I would like to let you know that if you need any support, if anyone speaks in Spanish, I can help with that. And I will be jumping in to support Stuart through the webinar. And do not hesitate to ask any question if you need to. Great,
thanks very much. So just a quick note on housekeeping and logistics. Even though we're a small group, since I'm the host, you are now on mute just so we don't start talking over each other. I'm going to give a short presentation now for 5 to 8 minutes, giving the context of Cities for Forests, and then we're going to ask each one of you to introduce yourselves briefly, just so that we start to get to know each other. Then we're going to go into some of the communication goals and some of the activities, and last but not least, Patricia is going to help give us some insights into what's coming up. Okay, so Cities for Forests, you're all welcome, most welcome to our first working group on communications. As you know, Cities for Forests is about connecting cities with forests around the world. Forests provide tremendous benefits for everyone and everything, as you can see in this slide. The originality of Cities for Forests is the fact that we are striving to interconnect the inner, nearby, and far away forests, and to help cities integrate these 3 areas into their policies more holistically and ultimately more effectively. Cities for Forests obviously ticks many of the UN SDG boxes, which you can see here, and has great potential to advance the SDGs by its communication activities with its cities, which we'll get to later. There are also other ones that are not shown on this screen, but essentially we have to be a little bit selective. If not, we can claim to just about do anything. Right now there are about 8 or 9 participants on this call, but overall we have the participation of 60 cities now, which is exciting. We've grown quite quickly over the last 6 to 8 months since we officially launched in, last September, but we really started activities at the beginning of 2019, as you know. Very briefly on the 3 different areas of activities related to the forest dimensions. We have the inner forest. Here we can provide technical assistance for the mapping of trees and forests, as well as advice and guidance on incorporating environmental justice and social equity into forest-related programs, as well as innovative finance on green infrastructure projects. For the nearby level, we can provide economic analysis, technical assistance, and financing guidance for nature-based solutions. Here we have an example of Sao Paulo. I love this photo of the forest with the city in the distance. And Nairobi, we've done some very hands-on work, let's say, with a third party, One Tree Planted, doing some tree planting exercises that we'll show a little bit later. The third and one of the most important and often the forgotten solution, as it's called, is the global faraway forest. And here we can provide the outlines of our partner forest program and the forthcoming forest footprint tool that we're starting to develop, as well as guidance on responsible wood procurement for our cities. I mention these briefly because there are other working groups as well. If you're interested in learning more about those, we can share the lineup, and you can also share it with your colleagues who may be interested in joining a working group on inner forest, for example, or the finance. From our side at REVOLVE, we're leading the communication activities. We can help with the public information campaigns that our cities may want to carry out. We do photo exhibitions. We've worked with the UNDP, with Irina and others. We do photo contests, we can do video interviews, gaming ideas, and so on. We'll be happy to hear your ideas and some of the success stories and initiatives that you may have in your respective cities as well a little bit later. The overarching benefits for cities participating in Cities for Forests include the following 9 interrelated boxes. We will talk about the resident engagement in this working group, as well as the convenings and forums and upcoming campaigns. As you know, there are 3 founding partners to this initiative: pilot projects, REVOLVE, and the World Resources Institute. And we have the initial support on a global level from NICFI, the Norwegian government, and on a regional level, primarily through our colleagues at WRI, and in Latin America, the regional support is coming from the Fundación FEMSA. So before we dive into the communication working group, some of the activities that we're doing, I wanted to take just a minute to have our respective colleagues that are on this call today take a minute or two to introduce yourselves, say hello to the group, give brief insight into what you're working on in your respective city. So if you can hear me, let us start with Paula Tanchit from Porto Alegre, I believe.
Yes.
Good morning. You're most welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here to get to know more about the work that we are going to do with City for Forests, especially in communications. I'm here in Porto Alegre, south of Brazil. I'm a communications analyst, so I'm the communications team from WRI Brazil. We are still starting this work with Cities for Forests. We are not actually working hard in these campaigns. We are still trying to understand how we can work with Cities for Forests and trying to organize ourselves and see what else we can work with the other organizations and especially REVOLVE to understand what is your role in this communications process and how we can work together.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula.
Okay.
Rachel Leary, can you say a few words, please?
Los Angeles, it's about 7 a.m. here. I have somebody sleeping in my room. But I just wanted to, yeah, okay. So thank you.
Quietly then.
Yeah. It's really a privilege and an honor to be on this call. I work for City Plants, the organization and nonprofit that works right alongside the city of Los Angeles and the mayor's office to plant and distribute about 20,000 free trees a year, both street trees and trees on private property. So our goal is to grow an equitable urban forest in the city of Los Angeles. And we've been launching, although we're a small but mighty team of 3 people currently, we have a far reach through all the groups that we work with in the city. And one of our goals this year is to ramp up our communication and marketing methods just to really get the word out about the importance of urban tree canopy in the city as large as Los Angeles, to both help achieve and reach the mayor of LA, Mayor Eric Garcetti, just released the Green New Deal of LA and set forth some pretty bold tree canopy goals. So we'll be using those goals as a kind of launch point for a new campaign that I think we'll be launching in the fall and spring, really just encouraging Angelinos to sign up to get free trees and to help grow and protect grow and protect the urban forest and to educate folks on how to care for trees properly.
Wow, that sounds exciting. That's coming online this fall, you said.
Yeah, we're currently, it's in the works, and we have a lot of different actors and players at the city level who are participating, which is really great. So we're coordinating with the mayor's office on that.
Okay, great. So this is definitely one to follow closely. Thanks very much, Rachel, and yeah, good you didn't wake up your colleague. I'm going to pass on the microphone to Raven Lawson. Floor is yours.
Good morning. Again, I'm Raven Lawson. I am the Watershed Protection Manager for Central Arkansas Water. I'm representing Little Rock and North Little Rock in the central U.S., Arkansas. I work for a drinking water utility, and our focus for Cities for Forest is to promote nearby forest and forest health. So as a drinking water utility, we actually own about 25,000 acres of land and forested and water resources. Mm-hmm. And so our goal is to pass the importance of a healthy, managed working forest onto our 450,000 customers.
Okay.
So that's what we're here, or that's our interest in Cities for Forest.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for the intro, and you must know Todd Gardner quite well.
Yes.
And the nearby forest is also an important angle that we're trying to integrate. So this is wonderful. Thanks for the intro. I'm going to pass the floor now to Mariana Campos. Can you hear her? Mariana Campos Sanchez, the floor is yours if you would like it.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm Mariana, and I work at WRI Mexico, working with the 6 cities in the network, and I'm attending this webinar these are Spanish-speaking cities, so we're trying to understand what kind of information we might want to transmit them and to encourage them to attend these webinars.
Okay, super. It's great to make the connection with the WRI team out there. Another WRI team, I'm going to pass the floor to Mr. Meseret from Addis Ababa. Adelante. Meseret, go ahead. Okay. Addis may have stepped out of the room for a minute. Eduardo Valencia is calling in from Latin America as well.
Hi, do you?
There you are. Yep, good morning.
Okay.
Buen día.
I'm from Mexico City. I represent an organization called Rios Tarango in Mexico City. It's a micro shed in the western part of Mexico City, and we are working on a project to regenerate the area. It's like a 600 acre area, and it's a very important area because it provides very important environmental services to Mexico City as a whole. Mm-hmm. So we're excited to join this group.
Yes, wonderful. Eres el bienvenido.
Gracias.
And Eduardo, are you part of the city infrastructure, or are you part of the adjacent association? I mean, do you work for the city or do you work for a nonprofit? What's the relation there?
Well, yeah, no, I'm not a government employee or official. I'm part of a nonprofit organization called Rios Tarango.
Okay, Rios Tarango.
Right.
Okay, you're most welcome to our group this morning, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me try Mr. Meseret again from Addis, if everyone will indulge me for 1 minute.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, there you are, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Meseret, and I'm working with the Cities for Forest team. And here I have another colleague, Ubanchi. She's also working with the Cities team. And we're working with Addis Ababa city government in supporting their initiation on forest and forest-related issues in Addis, especially the inner forest for the time being, because as you know, we have a big tree planting campaign this season, and Addis is planting a lot of trees, and we are planning to work on the priorities changing sometimes, but mainly we are working with them on mapping, on communication, and on business models, how to manage parks and how to sustainably manage the trees planted. Just yesterday, they've planted about 3.5 million trees a day. And that's what we are trying to work with them on sustainable management and business model and communication strategies.
Wow, did I hear that correctly? You said 3.5 million trees a day?
Yeah, 3.5 million trees in Addis only, and as a country, we've planted 353 million trees as the whole nation in 1 day yesterday.
Okay, that sounds absolutely bombastic and incredible, almost like the Indian. So it looks like LA and Rachel has a little catching up to do. Thank you, Meseret, for your input. Just out of curiosity and a quick back and forth, the mapping exercise, how far along are you with that? Is it for the tree canopy in Addis itself and surrounding areas, or are you really focusing on the inner forest?
The focus will be in inner city, and then because the location is a bit in our surrounding Addis, the administration is different, so we have to engage at higher level with the federal government, others, so that we'll continue on that. But still, we are communicating with the city, and hopefully by next week everything will be finalized to start the actual work.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Patricia, I'm going to give you the floor so that you can introduce Sarah Nerton from Greater Manchester, correct? Who's having trouble with the microphone or something?
Correct. Thank you, Stuart. Yes, I spoke with Sarah, and she's having some troubles with the audio as she's connected through her phone. Okay. So Sarah is working at the City of Trees. It's an environmental organization that works together with the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. She is responsible for the communications, so I'm working closely with them. It's good to be working with them as they have a pretty ambitious goal of planting 3 million trees and bringing 2,000 hectares of unmanaged woodland back into the use of the community. This is at an inner level as well, inner forest. So they are trying to position the city greener and healthier. And basically trying to reforest the areas and to promote the species that they have. So yeah, this is what they are working on. They have a project that brings together over 300 hectares of green spaces and woods. They want to create vast areas of urban forest, the same size of the New York Central Park. They are doing a lot of resident engagement campaigns. For example, they participated in the One Tree Planted activities a few months ago, and they are doing another tree planting event in 2 days on the 1st of August. So they are really trying to become like the residents, a citizen forester, as they call it. So they are trying to spread the word around the reforestation of the area. They have other activities as well related to kids, like the Go Wild in the Woods campaign that they are hosting this summer. They are doing as well some more digital mapping, like the tree map that they have. So it's a very good project that they are hosting.
Great, thank you for the introduction, and sorry, Sarah, that we can't hear you. I'm glad that you could be on nonetheless, and happy that Greater Manchester is part of this initiative. For everyone to know, Greater Manchester was the second city to sign up to the declaration last year, so it's particularly close to heart for me and for Revolve to have them involved, so very happy that they're here. I see that our colleague from WRI, James Anderson, is also signed in. I know that he's had, are you available, James, to say a few words? Good morning, Mr. Anderson. James is helping with the comms at WRI headquarters in the US, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to sign on right now. So James has helped coordinate many of the city contacts, and you may have received messages from him over the last few months regarding different activities and different city profiles and trying to bring some content together. Just hoping James could introduce himself, but James, can you hear us? Okay, maybe we'll try back later. Can't hear you, James. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the section on our communication working group that focuses on engaging city residents through communications and campaigns. We have three main overarching goals, as you can see if you're looking at the shared screen here. We are aiming to ensure constant and consistent flow of information with you guys, with the cities. We're going to do our best to keep the communication channels open and flowing. We're going to try to support you in your respective languages with different communication materials and strategic advice when we can. We don't have all the answers, so manage expectations early as well. And we're going to try to help build Cities for Forests into a global reference on the emerging city-forest nexus topics. We have developed at our side via Revolve and James from WRI and our colleagues there, we've developed the logo for the Cities for Forests and the emblem and some of the templates and some of the shareables. And Patricia is encouraging me to show you some of the different things that we have going, and I'm just trying to link us over there. So just excuse me for a sec while we do that. Tell me. So over here, can you still see our screen? Patricia, ¿lo ves bien?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a Cities for Forests Dropbox folder that we're going to share with everybody in the follow-up to this call. And it gives you some of the presentation templates that can be used. The one that you just saw that I presented in a few words, those 8 to 10 slides giving the overview of the project itself. We've already put that into Spanish for our WRI colleagues and some of the Latin American cities that used this in Buenos Aires last month, I believe, for the 20x20 initiative they have going down there. And we're happy to put it into other languages and to help you use it in your respective channels. We've also developed different online shareables that are by theme. So we've taken the approach of looking at biodiversity, at climate resilience, at health and well-being, and at water and water resources. so I'm not going to go into opening each one of these, but you'll see that you have about 10 to 12 samples that can be used, and this one, of course, is focusing on biodiversity. But these can each time be adjusted, and you can put in your own quotes. You can use your own city or association logo and branding, as long as you keep within the family of Cities for Forests. So we thought that this could be an interesting early tool that you could use via your respective channels. And then we also have, of course, the visual identity and the logo kits that we're going to put up on the website in the coming weeks, so that everybody can use those as well. Our next point is related to crafting narratives for social media. And here you can see the example of our colleagues in Greater Manchester, the City of Trees that was just mentioned. This is the mayor on the right here. So Patricia, feel free to jump in and say a few words each time about these different slides.
Sure.
I mean, some of the main questions that we want you guys to think about early on is, who do you want to influence most? What messages are you trying to get across? And what calls to action do you want us to help you deploy and get out to the world? Essentially, via our network, it's a bit more global, but of course, the more vertical axis of getting to cities and down to residents, there are certain messages that are more holistic, and then ones that each time are a little bit more tailored. And we're happy to work with you on both, essentially, and to help tailor some of these different shareables and visuals. And here's an example of our first sort of overarching visual that we've started to put together regarding the inner, nearby, and far away levels that were mentioned earlier. And here, Patricia, please go ahead, say a few words.
In this visual, what you can see is the 3-level forest. From left to right, you can see from the inner perspective that it's gray, and you can see the buildings and the transport and everything that surrounds the city that actually influences our 4 main themes of the vision that we have now. We want to, through Cities for Forests, what we want to project is the 4 main benefits of the forest, and that will go in the form of the climate resilience of forests in cities, water, which is actually reflected in blue. You have biodiversity, the protection of the biodiversity, which is key for protecting the ecosystem, so you can see it in greens. Then you have the human dimension, which will be the pink objects, the items that you have in pink reflects the health benefits that forests provide. And then climate resilience is in yellow. So you can see that through these different levels, which are all interconnected, the idea is that we can create that synergy between the inner, nearby, and far away forest, because everything influences each of these areas. So this is the main thing that we would like to visualize through all our communications. And we feel that with visual material, with images and color coding, you can get through people more easily, and you can click on their emotions. So sometimes what we need to ask ourselves is, how many of your residents know or appreciate the role of forests, and what kind of illustration or mapping reflect that? So maybe I raise a question for you. If you would like to participate, it will be, how many of your cities have some sort of illustration or maps that you commonly use to communicate with your residents, and if you noticed any sort of engagement in your communications. Sometimes we use social media and we use different channels, but we don't know what it's been more successful, if it's through blogs or through radio, podcasting, videos, or in this form, which we feel it's quite strong. So if you have any suggestions or tools that you use that you feel that your residents are engaging them more, feel free to share with us. Or if you've done any sort of leaflet or advert or this kind of illustration, will be good to see it, and of course to help you to do this, aligning it with our vision as well in Cities for Forest.
Yeah, and during this call, this intro webinar, if you have something to say or if you want to jump in, just there's a little option over there where you can raise your hand and it'll pop up on our screen and I'll be able to see who wants to pipe in. So moving ahead, do feel free to jump in whenever you want and to comment on what we're saying. We've started to develop these different visuals, as Patricia's mentioning, the idea of getting them through our participating cities to their respective communication channels, eventually potentially to schools and to associations and to the media. And this is also part of our main activities at Revolve, is to help with media relations and overall outreach. These are a couple of examples of early articles related to Cities for Forests. In the middle here, you'll see Antalya, Turkey. That's one of our Mediterranean-oriented partner cities. And then here's one from Manchester, and the one over here with the colleagues from Latin America and Mexico and so on will recognize the FNP, I believe. So early question to you guys is, how active is your media in covering forest issues? Do you have recent articles or coverage or interviews or photo essays or videos about your respective activities? If so, please send them along to Patricia and myself and James, of course, and we'll help centralize them and promote them via the Cities for Forest website and social media channels. Patricia in particular, why don't you step in and say a few words about the different media that you're in contact with?
Yes, so over the past 6 months, as you could see here, we've been trying to reach out to media ourselves, but also through cities' efforts to protect forests. And some Brazilian cities have got the coverage when they joined the initiative, and some others have got the attention of media when they did a tree planting event, like in the case of Antalya or Manchester. The idea is that we communicate in a more fluent and consistent basis, so we are up to date of what activities are coming up, so we can reach out to some international and local media and get this to be more visible, no? So we can get more through to the residents and of course to a more international community. Right now, we are in conversations with The Place, which is a magazine run by the Thomson Reuters Foundation, Climate Foresight, which is more specialized on climate resilience, and a US organization that it's working on community engagement and content. It's called Next Cities, and others in Latin America like Corresponsables, which also focus on sustainable development, and it's in Spanish, and they cover different, the whole region actually. And then we have another media outlets that are more focused on the thematics. For example, Topos, which is a European publication in the form of a magazine, they cover more aspects on urbanism, especially those on wood urbanism and being more efficient in the way we plan our cities and we use construction. So we try to focus on this theme. We try to focus on the health benefits of forest, to try to get that covered in the media, and of course in the local and international outreach. So feel free to get in touch with us and let us know if there's been any recent media coverage, or if you have any upcoming activities that you want us to help you reach out to the media, and we can help with that.
Yeah, I would just add that we use different media tracking software and algorithms with a company called Meltwater that some of you may know. And so if you want us to help track one of your campaigns in, I don't know, LA, for example, or Manchester, and you want to do something a bit more in depth rather than just a Google search to see who's been who's been writing or covering your respective campaign or project, do let us know, and we're happy to provide some reinforcement there.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the slide on the crafting the narratives for campaigning or activities, there are different approaches to do so, and we know that it's not that easy to communicate with the media. So we can help you to develop those messages for a PR, focusing on the more emotional message, or on the facts and figures, and how do we communicate more technical messaging to more accessible ones, or maybe phrasing this approach on a more Q&A, an opportunity for residents to get involved. So, for example, raising a question and asking them to participate. So we can help you with different approaches.
Great. These are some more examples of some recent, here's Kochi, not sure, and EG Environmental Journal. These are more examples. Every week since maybe a month now, we've been alternating the promotion of a different city. We're calling it the City of the Week, and we're tying this together with social media promotion and a short video related to the city itself. And this video, I believe, is related to Nairobi and our tree planting exercise. So it's very short and visual, and not trying to go into great detail. Used on Instagram and others with quite some backing. So my point here is to say that you're getting a glimpse of what Patricia will say later about what's coming up. We now have an ongoing series called City of the Week. Everyone will be featured in it. So the more prepared we are each time, the better the promotion and the communication outwards externally can be. So we encourage you to share photos of your projects and stats and any other video support that we could lend or whatnot. We're happy to try to integrate that each time better and better. This, I think we can skip. It's just the intro video to Cities for Forests. What do you think, Patricia? Should I run through it quickly?
Yeah, basically the idea behind these short videos is that we can gather content from your side if you send us photos, short clips, the footage from your events or activities, and we can help you to put together a short video that through your channels you can distribute, and we can maximize or optimize the impact through ours as well. So the idea is that we can collaborate and cooperate to gather these materials, and we can produce this for your cities. So it's something that we proved that works very well. And we managed to engage with local actors through these videos. So it's another way of getting into your residents.
Okay, so in the follow-up to this call, when we share the Dropbox links to the different templates and shareables, we'll also share the link to this intro video, so we'll keep it as suspense for you. We've also started doing a quarterly newsletter. Most of you should be signed up to it. If you're not, we encourage you to go on to the media section of the website, citiesforforest.com, and you can sign up there directly. We can also opt you in, but it's better if you sign up. So here we have just an example of some of the different sections. We have a focus here on one of the spotlight on one of the cities. We have different events that we participated in. We have some press coverage. We have some recommended reading and reports, and we have some social media highlights. Engage your stakeholders. That's what this is all about. My last little note here is about having fun, and don't forget to use the hashtag Cities for Forests no matter what you do. Hashtag Cities for Forests. Patricia, you want to say a few words about this?
Well, what we are trying to do through social media is to involve other other influencers in the conversations. So the more we can use the hashtag Cities for Forests or @Cities for Forests, the better. So we can create a sort of momentum around forest and what cities are doing. So I will ask once again that engaging with the different local actors is key. So every time that you do social media outreach, please make sure that you do a bit of research around the media associations, environmental organizations, anyone that is actually putting their efforts to promote forest and protect them. Make sure that you tag them so we can see that they are key actors to follow and to get in touch with, and the other way around. So we create a sort of community through these posts. So this is what we've been doing with One Tree Planted and what we are envisioning to do with other partnerships that we are dealing with right now, like especially with the youth, which is very active on social media. So for example, Youth for Climate, which actually are part of a bigger networks behind them, it's people that really want to tag and engage and interact on a more frequent basis. So it's interesting to see how this City of the Week campaign that we are starting to do actually reflects in this, no? That more other local actors are seeing this and they want to participate as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So now that's a nice transition to what's coming up. And here we have, here I'm going to pass it over to you, Patricia, because you know this better than me.
Yeah, I think we covered a little bit what the communication working groups are. And we have different sessions prepared for the coming weeks. And what we would like to do is, this one, it's been a more introductory or explanatory webinar, but in the coming ones, we would like to make it more participatory and interactive. And I hope to hear as well after this from your side, what activities are coming up or what you are doing. What we would like to do is to do half a presentation sort of training to the cities that join, focusing on different topics. Today we covered all of them on a very kind of basic way, but we will be covering all of them in a more in-depth way in the coming months. So crafting a narrative and creating campaigns with you. And then the other half of the session, we would like to co-organize a presentation with a city. So we can present what it's been happening there. As for example, with Manchester, I mentioned that they are doing a tree planting campaign in 2 days. So it will be nice in September to go through what was the challenge, who participated, what were the messages used, what were the outcomes, and what could be the best follow-up to these activities. So we can help between all of us to really replicate these kind of campaigns, but also to improve them in the future. So we will be collaborating with each of the cities to do future communication calls. In the case of Guadalajara, I know that they are working on different case studies on their urban parks. So it will be interesting to know how they are actually putting together this research and the actual case studies and what we can learn from them. In the case of Kochi, as we mentioned, they are organizing a huge art exhibition. It's a biannual art biennale that will happen at the end of next year. So it will be good to start the preparations and how they will use public spaces to reconnect with nature. I think this is something that every city can learn from, and it's something that it will be interesting to deep delve into this. There's other cities like Philadelphia that I think, I'm not sure if it joined, but they were supposed to join today, that is also willing to share their experiences in resident engagement campaigns. For example, like many other cities, they are trying to address the disparities with the cities and have implemented a campaign with some success in getting youth talking about trees. So we will be talking about how we can engage the youth in protecting and engaging with trees and forest, of course. So the idea is that cities lay out a problem, they talk about the strategies that they deploy and how effective it is. And of course, it's good to delve into the surprises, the fails, the lessons learned along the way. and we can all help and support this. So if any of you is interested in doing this co-presentation, let's say during a webinar, please contact us so we can start working together in the upcoming activities, or some of them that are already passed, so we can actually prepare this presentation and schedule it for the upcoming working group sessions.
Yeah, that was an excellent overview. Thanks, Patricia. I would only add that this is the initial planning of a much longer term series of trying to involve all of the cities that are part of this initiative. So it could become a first come, first serve type basis, such as Philadelphia that just reached out to say, hey, we really want to talk about our inner tree initiative, and we want to present about this and exchange ideas and so on. So we're happy to reach out to the different partners each time, but it's also nice to have some reciprocity, and so don't be shy. Feel free to come forwards and propose some ideas is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good opportunity, and I think this will help to bring this, to use this initiative to actually bring together an international community that it's actually recently supporting these forest city projects and engage with community leaders who are mobilizing forest action. So I think it's important that we take these opportunities and work together on this. And of course, look for more partnerships and more action-oriented campaigns that could help engagement. Yeah. So one of the campaigns that we are preparing over the coming months, it's a photo competition. We would like to start with this because I think that this is a nice way to reach out through online channels, but also have the opportunity to actually put together maybe an exhibition to display those photographs. And we believe in the power of visual material to transmit messages. And I think social media is a good medium to reach and engage with the founding cities, and also, all the active community with experts and artists that are actually more often taking photos of nature. So we will be doing that through Instagram because we feel that is the more visual attractive platform, but we will also be setting up a page in our website to actually display all the information and criteria of coming months. And of course, the winning photographs will be archived and displayed there, so we can create some links through your different city pages as well. So the idea with this, of course, the first step is to choose the right theme. We've been thinking about different topics, for example, the changing forest, or forest conservation, or nature reconquers. We feel that it's a nice topic because it's always go back to the rewilding aspect. And it's very easy for people to engage with that, because you see it when you are working in your city. We can also explore the topic of restoration, as we are now engaging in the UN Decade Restoration, as the UN report that appeared on the restoration decade, so we can articulate a more sustainable symbiosis with forest. We will be more than happy to hear your suggestions, depending on the themes that you feel that your residents will be more interested, or easily for them to become part of this. We saw, for example, that Manchester, it's putting together as well a photo contest starting in early January. I saw that it's a nature photo contest and that they will have a different theme each month, which is interesting. So it's interesting to find out these things so we can actually link back to our campaign and create a bigger strengthen our efforts. So if you have any sort of ideas as well in maybe an activity or campaign that you are planning, and there's somehow we can link back to this photo contest, we could do so. The idea is that we start the preparations and the criteria over the coming 2 months. And in October, we will share in our webinar in October, we will share the basis of this competition and the details of it. So the idea is that we launch this competition in January 2020. So we have some time to put together the basics. And of course, it will be nice to engage with some local influencers. So if you know, the idea behind this, the goal is to engage with your residents, but it's good to have some photographers that are quite active in your area to support this and to promote the campaign. And we believe that the importance of partnerships is key to make this a success. So if you have any organizations, environmental NGOs or activist groups, young people or universities, school that you might think that want to participate or get engaged, let's speak together, let's speak with them and try to put everything in place over the coming 3 months.
Yeah, I would just add that we're thinking early about having like a two-tiered, two-pronged award at the end. One would be for the city that has gathered the most likes and the most photos and the most popular support, let's say, for the photos that they've displayed and disseminated. And the other one would be for the individual who has actually gathered the most likes and shares and so on. So we're going to try to bring those two together so it's mutually beneficial for our network of cities and for ultimately for the residents and citizens who are involved in this activity. We won't go into more detail right now, but as Patricia said, we are planning this out and we would like to hear from you. We've run some photo contests that flopped in the past, so I'm happy to say that we learned from those experiences, but it's never a silver bullet, so we're happy to hear from you and exchange ideas. I just got a message from James, so I wanted to see if he could say good morning to everybody. James, can you hear us?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
Hey.
Great. Hi there. Sorry to be welcoming everyone a little bit late, and thanks to Stuart and Patricia for running the show here. We just welcomed new twin girls into my family, so we're quite busy over here. I work at the World Resources Institute on the Cities for Forest team there, helping with communications and project management. So I'm another resource. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to discuss any ideas at all. Thank you.
Thanks very much, James.
Thank you, James. I can see here that Carlos Acosta has joined from Cali, and maybe it's a good opportunity for him to introduce himself and talk. Carlos, are you there? Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien.
Hola, Carlos.
¿Decías que te silencié el micrófono? Sí.
Sí.
Te oímos.
Listo.
Te escuchamos bien.
Carlos, ¿podrías hacernos una introducción sobre la participación de Cali en Cities for Forest?
Sí, claro, mira, Cali...
I don't know if maybe if you could do it in English, is that possible? Otherwise, I could translate.
No, es mejor que me traduzcas porque mi inglés es pésimo.
Perfecto.
Te hago entonces un breve resumen.
Sí.
Es una iniciativa pública, público-privada, desde la autoridad ambiental del municipio, ubicando espacios dentro de la zona urbana con participación comunitaria, con el objetivo de conservar biodiversidad de bosque seco tropical, que es el ecosistema predominante en la ciudad. Entonces no van a ser parques de recreación, sino espacios de conservación de algunos árboles, de algunas aves, en asocio con universidades y con vecinos para buscar que los vecinos se apropien de estos espacios y nos ayuden a conservarlos. Hay universidades, hay lotes cercanos a barrios, hay unidades deportivas, son 3 consolidados y hay unos 6 o 7 que estamos empezando a consolidar con participación de la gente y con algunos recursos de la alcaldía.
Muy bien. Patricia.
Muchas gracias, Carlos. So Carlos was saying that he works for an initiative, a public and private initiative, that they are trying to protect urban areas, but it's more specifically around biodiversity. to protect and conserve biodiversity. Given that they have a tropical ecosystem, they would like to put the attention on the species, especially on the birds, because I know that Cali is one of the cities that has most bird species in the world. So fair enough, they really need to put the focus on protecting this biodiversity as one of the hotspots that we should be looking at, and not only for recreation. So their focus is going to be on that. They are trying to put in place initiatives and measures to involve the neighbors in these spaces. So the use of public spaces to protect and conserve. And they are working with universities, with different neighborhoods, with sports centers, and trying to consolidate these residents' participations and put the investments and resources into that. So thank you, Carlos. I don't know if you have any questions related to this.
That's great, Patricia. I think that we're approaching the end of our official time, but I'm happy to leave this open for questions that anybody has or any comments. As I said earlier, it's hard for me on this side to open the mic to everybody just because it doesn't allow me to. So if you would like to say something and comment on or ask us some questions about the previous slides, please just raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you or just try to jump in. I think Sarah wanted to say something.
Maybe Sarah, you can put it in the chat. And okay, perfect. I can see that Sarah has shared a recent coverage from the city of Manchester in the Ecologist, which is good to know, this organization, the Journal for the Post-Industrial Age. Talking about the city of trees and how they are answering the climate emergency that we are living in. So this is exactly what will be good to find out from every city, so we can be more aware of the media awareness and the sort of messages that they are using and the frame of this. I can see also that Sarah has shared with us one of the tools that they are using called iTree Eco. iTree Eco. I think it's a monitoring tool, tree monitoring tool.
Okay.
This is interesting because in parallel to all these communication activities, we are also developing a database tools. So it's good to know what is happening in your cities relating to digital tools that you are using for building these databases and monitoring and mapping trees. Any contribution or questions from anyone? So we can actually keep it in mind for the next session.
This is Rachel O'Leary from Los Angeles here, and I was wondering if it would be possible to get the names and contact information for everybody on this call. I'm really inspired by the work that's being done throughout the world. I would love to both have, just stay in touch with some of the folks, especially Spanish-speaking folks, because we are really trying to do extensive outreach to Spanish-speaking populations in Los Angeles. So I'd love to connect.
That's great, Rachel. And this is something that we really want to tackle in the coming sessions, because we feel the necessity of using Spanish because we cover a lot of Mexican cities. And of course, there's a huge audience that we want to cover. Spanish speaking, so we could help with that, with the messaging. And of course, as we did with Guadalajara, for example, we put together the video in English and Spanish. And we noticed that when it's in Spanish, there's more attention towards that. It happened the same with Cali. When we did some posts in Spanish, it got the attention of people, of course, because of the language. Yeah. So we really want to keep that in mind. And it's good to know that even from LA, it's something, a priority.
Oh yeah, we make all of our program materials bilingual, and we actually started reaching out to the International Society of Arboriculture in Mexico just to see. We had some certain technical terms that we needed help with translating, and they were really great. So yeah.
We're definitely going to connect everybody each time after in the follow-up to these calls. And we have 8 to 10 people on today, so it's not going to be difficult to recognize who is who. And yeah, I remember hearing the mayor of Los Angeles in San Francisco last year at a press conference, and he spoke in near perfect Spanish, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I have a hands up here from our colleague Meseret, who's coming in from Addis Ababa. The floor is yours, Meseret.
Hello.
There you are. Go ahead.
My colleague will continue.
Hello, hi, sorry.
Hello.
Meseret is going to be stepping to another meeting. Actually, our colleagues from Addis Ababa city government, they were here. They just left because they assumed it's going to be finished by now. Anyway, they have a few questions about how we can engage all stakeholders, the private sector, the NGOs. If you have any actually example, it might work in our case. I know most of you might know like exactly what the case is in Addis Ababa because it's going to be like case-to-case basis. But their question was like, how can we, because now we are doing this tree planting, which Meseret mentioned already. Mentioned already, but even those things usually are more or less like come from the government sector and then more or less done by the government. So they want to know like how we can engage the NGOs, the private sector, the influencers, the activists and stuff. If you have any kind of idea how to go about that, they would like to know, or if you have any kind of document they might like to refer.
Okay, that sounds like a very comprehensive exercise to do stakeholder engagement and stakeholder analysis and you know, the different target groups and so on. We'll be happy to follow up bilaterally. Is this Eleni Ashibir?
No, this is not Eleni, this is Wolvanchi.
Okay. Okay, great. So we'll follow up bilaterally with you on those topics. It's quite a broad one, so maybe we'll have to tune in. But it seems like you're on a good momentum with 3.5 million trees and counting. That's impressive. I'd like to check that myself.
That's great.
We have a message coming in from James flagging the fact that on August 6th, we have another webinar with the Inner Forest team on introducing iTree that was mentioned a couple of times on this call already. So perhaps we'll circulate this invite in the follow-up to our first intro today. And for anybody who wants to join that, you're most welcome to, of course.
I think going back to the request from Addis Ababa, I think, well, in our plans, there's also a webinar which will be focused on crafting messaging for different stakeholders. So we will be doing that later on the year. And at the same time, in parallel, we are putting together a media kit which will be more dedicated to this sort of, well, the media and of course the more general audience, but also documents that will be more addressing the finance community and others for the policy making. So we will be drafting some documents that might be helpful for you to use when talking to these different stakeholders. And it will be nice later on the year to do an exercise all together here for this sort of stakeholder analysis and mapping.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful.
Okay, great. So I just had one question towards the colleague Paula from Porto Alegre. Can you give us some insights into some of the challenges with the ongoing or the current administration regarding any sort of forest campaigns you may want to lead or deploy? What's the general, what are some of the challenges that you guys are confronted with?
Oh, unfortunately, I'm not very, I'm just in the communications team and I'm not very involved in this project yet.
Okay.
I have some other colleagues that I could talk more about this with you. I can ask them to reach you to explain the scenario, and just not to say things that is not exactly correct.
Okay, great. Just curious.
I think this has been a very good opportunity to meet you all, which is very necessary that we connect on a more direct way, and I hope that you can join the future webinars as well, and we can all learn together. And I hope to hear more from what's happening in your city, so we can reinforce your efforts and of course collaborate to create new campaigns, let's say, or activities.
If there are any last comments, now is the time. If not, I'm going to close the call in the following few minutes. Okay. Well, thank you to those calling in from the Americas. Thank you for the early hour, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Thank you, everyone. Let us know if there's anything that you would like to cover on a bilateral. There's Eleni as well that wants to speak. Stuart?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to close this out.
All right.
We'll talk very soon. Thank you for your attention.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Carlos, si necesitas alguna... Oh, se fue. So, Stuart, I